Hello everybody, Dada here. Today we have a new tutorial that will cover very basic questions of how to install HardTube into HardTube fitting. Apparently some of people still have absolutely no clue how to do it, so I get a daily multiple questions about this subject, and that warrants to make a quick 5-minute tutorial so you know how to do it correctly. For those of you who building computers for living, might want to skip this video because it will be very basic information, so unlikely will learn anything new, unless you just want to watch me doing something. Anyways, so the question number one I getting all the time, which has surprised me, but nevertheless. Some people migrating from a soft tube to hard tube, and they asking me, is it possible to reuse barbs and compression fitting from the soft tubing setup on the hard tubes? Absolutely not. It's absolutely different type of stuff. You can't reuse anything. You have to buy new fitting, and you need obviously to buy hard tube yourself. Sorry, no good news on this front. The question number two comes in different variations, but it's always about hardships of installing tubing into hard tube fittings. And we will cover it very quickly, and you will see it's very easy. First of all, I assume you're clever enough to understand that the size of the tube should match size of the fitting. So if you buy 16mm tube, you need a fitting that works with 16mm tube. If you buy 12, it should be 12, or whatever other size you're looking for. If that covered, normally you will start your project with having tube and your tube fitting. We're not talking about how to cut tube, how to bend tube. We're only talking about the installation. First of all, let's look how the fittings constructed. It's actually also some sort of compression fitting that consists out of three main parts. There's a compression cup that usually pre-installed in the fitting, so one part doesn't bang on other in a shipping container. So this will be this one. Secondly, we have a O-ring that sits between compression cup and the body of fitting itself, and we have a fitting itself that have some O-rings installed inside. So three parts. Secondly, we have a tube itself. How to insert it? Well, first of all, you have to do some preparation. You just cannot cut the tube or just get tube from the store and start shoveling it aside. All you will achieve, you will damage the fitting itself, or you more precisely, you probably will damage sealing O-rings that installed inside of the fitting, so the whole thing will be eventually leak, and obviously not something we want to do. So before you install anything, make sure you take care about the edge of your tube. You need some sort of rimming tool like this one, so you just go and cut the corners so they're not as sharp anymore. You can use a sandpaper that you just sand the edges of the tube in the sandpaper. You might have a filer that you use for the same purpose. So the idea is the same. You have to do some sort of mechanical work on the edge of the tube so it's not sharp anymore and it's kind of a little bit sloppy. That will help you to put fitting inside, and it also will not allow O-rings inside of the fitting to be damaged. So when you address the problem with the tube being prepared, some people asking if you have to use some sort of soap or some other stuff so to help you out. If you do it correctly, absolutely not. And also I would like to say that you don't want any crap in your computer. Don't use any soap or anything like this. If you want to, you can dip your tube into the distilled water so it's a little bit wet, and that will help you to sliding fitting a tube inside of the fitting, because there is some friction between the rubber and the plastic itself, PETG or acrylic, doesn't matter. So the whole thing is not very slippery, so you need some force to do it. If you wet your tube, it will help you a little bit, but it's absolutely not as bad to warrant to use any soap or anything like this. So stay away from any unwanted chemicals you might introduce in your system, which might create additional problems for you down to the road. All right. Now let's talk about installation of the tube and the fitting itself. First of all, sometimes, actually I would say all the time, you get fitting fully assembled, so compression cup is already attached to the body of the fitting, and some people, for whatever reason, they're just trying to shovel tube straight into the fitting itself without removing compression cup. The only thing you achieve, you will damage O-rings and probably wouldn't even go. So people emailing me on freaking daily basis saying that I bought this and that and everything's the same size and just doesn't go inside. Yeah, because you need to disassemble fitting in two pieces, compression cup out, O-ring out, and the body itself. And there's a sequence, correct sequence, how to assemble everything together. First, you take a compression cup, you slide it on a tube and put it a little bit further. Then you install and put on your O-ring, sealing O-ring, and finally you install the fitting itself. You can dip tube into the water if you want to, but if you file it properly, it probably will go in without much trouble. When you install it, the tube goes in approximately 5 millimeters, so that's how you can judge if you did it correctly. If you're not sure, you can actually remove it and you will see a little bit of marks on the tube that shows you how deep you went, but normally you just will feel it that when you push it in, it kind of goes in with some of resistance, but it goes for about 5 millimeters in. And when you install it, the only thing that's left is you slide your O-ring back towards the body itself, you slide compression cup towards body itself, and you simply screw one on other. So what's happening here is that the O-ring between the two pieces of compression fitting gets squished and provide you with insulation, and it seals the water. So you have a double protection here, one O-rings or sometimes two O-rings inside of the body of the fitting, and second O-ring or third O-ring between the body and compression cup. And then when everything is installed, you see that fitting kind of sits snugly, so you can't really remove it. Having said that, there's some people who use muscle to pull the fitting out, trying to check if they install it correctly. And what's happening, they disassemble it and they panic and email me and saying, oh, I did everything like seems right, but it doesn't sit properly, or I'm afraid it doesn't lock properly, blah, blah, blah. That's coming mostly, I assume, from the fact that people expect to have a similar type of situation with the soft tubing. But the difference between soft and hard tubing, with soft tubing and compression fitting, you actually mold soft tube around the compression fitting body. You basically bend and change its shape. So when everything is locked, you not only can pull fitting tube out, you can't even turn it. So that's how it's done. With the hard tubing, you can't really bend or mold the tube itself. You just have O-rings squished around it, and that was provide you with protection. But it doesn't mean that you, with enough force, you can't pull it out, because it's basically just not the way you do it. You have to glue it together or something like this to make it absolutely fixed configuration. You just install it and you seal it, but it's still removable if you use enough force basically to that. But it's not a reason to be alarmed. It's actually a benefit, because when you install it, and sometimes tube can be a little bit like crooked and things like this, and it's very easy to adjust everything, and even if tube rotates around the body of the fitting, it doesn't disturb your seal and nothing will leak or anything like this. So don't be afraid with the fact that tube doesn't sit on a tubing. Is absolutely fixed way, so nothing can take it out. So it's not a point of being alarmed or afraid of anything. So I hope these little tips help you out with your project and remove some anxiety that some of you getting when they try to assemble hard tubing project for the first time. And till the next time, if you want more, subscribe, like if you think it's helpful. And other than that, that's all I want to tell today. I see you soon.